Welcome to Pioneer TV Pregame.
Tonight, the Mooresville Pioneers face off against the Whiteland Warriors. Thank you for joining us on the Pioneer TV Pregame show. My name is Ethan Moore, and joining me is Jared Kempf.
With the Pioneers' loss against Franklin Community last week, their current record is 2-4.
In that game, Hogan Denny threw 24 complete passes of 39 attempts for 261 yards, 12 carries for 59 yards as well. Levi Dorn caught 7 passes for 86 yards and had 2 receiving touchdowns. Landon Clements had 5 carries for 9 yards, while Caden Brune caught an interception. Next week, the Pioneers face off the Artesians at Martinsville.
Tonight is the Pioneers' last regular season home game. Let's look at the Pioneers' season schedule and scores. In Week 1, they lost 29-34 against Bloomington North. In Week 2, they won 28-12 against Danville. Week 3, they lost 15-31 against Plainfield. Week 4, they won 59-22 against Greenwood. Week 5, they lost 21-27 against Decatur Central. And Week 6, they lost 26-29 against Franklin Community. Week 7 is tonight's game against Whiteland. Week 8, Martinsville. And Week 9, Perry Meridian.
Let's look at some of the Mooresville's key players. Mooresville quarterback Hogan Denny has a 53.3 pass completion percentage, 215 yards a game, 14 passing touchdowns, 5 interceptions, 648 rushing yards, 108 rushing yards a game, and 6 rushing touchdowns.
Next, there's senior Levi Dorn and junior Caden Brune. Caden Brune has 167 receiving yards and 2 receiving touchdowns. Levi Dorn leads the Pioneers with 497 receiving yards. He has 8 receiving touchdowns.
Senior Landon Clements leads the Pioneers with 49 tackles and 8.2 tackles per game. He also has 1 sack on the season. He has 261 rushing yards and 43.5 yards per game. He has 3 rushing touchdowns.
Senior Tyler Church for the Pioneers has 1,316 kickoff yards and 164 punt yards. He's made 21 out of 21 PAT kick attempts, and he's only made 1 field goal out of 4 attempts.
If you haven't seen it yet, watch the Hogan Denny football hype video on our YouTube channel before tonight's game. So heading into this game, Jared, Mooresville riding a 2-game losing streak. They fell to Decatur at home, went on the road against Franklin. They lost that game. Definitely struggling, trying to get back into the win column. They definitely have struggled in the Mid-State Conference. What do you kind of expect to see from Mooresville tonight?
We've seen throughout the whole season they are really good at playing about a half of football. They have yet to be able to put together a full game of football, and I hope we can see that tonight.
Yeah, last home game they played Decatur. They were in that game for most of it until that blocked punt when Decatur really started running away with it. The running game's been really strong with Hogan Denny, but Landon Clements coming off a bad night last week, only 9 yards on the game. So they definitely need to get the running game going with Clements to open up the passing game going forward.
Yeah, and last week, too, put together a great first half. Was even only down by 7, and then they come out at halftime, give up a couple touchdowns, and have to play behind, and just cannot come back when you're down by that much.
Yeah, they didn't allow a single point in that fourth quarter, but similar to their first week of the season when they played Bloomington North, they got themselves back into the game, but just because of how poorly they played up until the fourth quarter, it was just too much. We saw them win a lot of games early on the season when they were running the ball a lot and had a successful running attack. Recently, their passing game's been a lot stronger. Hogan Denny's been a little bit safer with the football, hasn't turned the football over as much, but defense has been a lot better stopping his running attack.
Yeah, you know, you kind of feel he's gotten a little bit more comfortable with the QB role, and he's kind of fallen off from where he was with the running aspect. But with running back Landon Clements, you can pick right up where he left off.
The game is only about 15 minutes away. Stay tuned for more Pioneer TV pregame show. We'll be right back after this break.
When I'm not racing at the track, I do like to take things a little bit slower. But even with my foot off the gas, I'm still driven to save lives. So if you're like me and you like hunting and fishing, you could do something to save lives too. Just say yes to being an organ donor when you get your hunting or fishing license online, or when you renew your Indiana driver's license. Join the 4 million Hoosiers who have signed up to save lives. Here, fishy, fishy, fishy.
Welcome back to more Pioneer TV pregame show. The Pioneers played against Whiteland last season. Mooresville lost that game 30-48. During that game, the Pioneers had a 52.9 pass completion percentage, 167 passing yards, 19 rushing carries for 155 yards, 167 receiving yards, no sacks, 87 tackles, 1 rushing touchdown, 2 receiving touchdowns, and 3 field goals.
Whiteland had a 60% pass completion percentage, 26 passing yards, 50 rushing carries for 325 yards, 26 receiving yards, 2 sacks, 71 tackles, 4 rushing touchdowns, 2 receiving touchdowns, and 0 field goals.
Whiteland won against Martinsville last week, 34-23, making their current record 3-3. Now let's look at the Warriors' season schedule. In Week 1, they won 52-20 against Jeffersonville. In Week 2, they lost 13-27 against Kokomo. Week 3, they won 31-15 against Decatur Central. Week 4, they lost 21-22 against Franklin Community. Week 5, they lost 13-28 against Pan Meridian. Week 6, they won 34-23 against Martinsville. Week 7 is tonight's game against Mooresville. Week 8, they play Plainfield, and Week 9, they play Greenwood.
Now let's take a look at some of Whiteland's key players. Whiteland's quarterback, Ollie Taylor, has a 40.5% pass completion percentage, 44.2 yards per game, 0 pass touchdowns, and 4 pass interceptions.
Next, there is Gunnar Hicks and Slate Valentine. Gunnar Hicks leads the Hawks with 119 receiving yards. He has 1 receiving touchdown. Valentine leads the Hawks with 790 rushing yards, 131.7 rushing yards a game, and he has 6 rushing touchdowns.
On defense, Jordan Palmer leads the Hawks with 64 tackles and 10.7 tackles per game. He has 5 QB hurries.
Noah Pope has 502 kickoff yards and 0 punt yards. He has made 13 out of 15 PAT kick attempts, and he has made 1 field goal. So, Jared, heading into this game, Whiteland coming off a good win against Martinsville last week. So, heading into this game, what do you think they're going to try and do?
You've noticed all season and even the game last year, they've really been trying to rush the ball. Their QB doesn't have any passing touchdowns so far. Their rushing is their whole offense right now.
Yeah, definitely. I expect them to run the ball a lot. They definitely have a strong running game. We even spoke to Hogan Denny, and he said one thing that this team needs to do, Mooresville, that is to stop the run in this game, mainly because the Pioneers' run defense has been really weak so far in the season, but also because Whiteland's run game is really strong. And to open up that running game, we're going to have to expect Whiteland to pass the ball a good amount. So what do you think Whiteland's going to have to do in the passing game to potentially win this game and open up the run game even more?
The QB is going to have to get a little bit comfortable. I know it hasn't been his job all season to kind of get a lot of passing yards, but if he could throw about 150 yards, the Pioneers are going to start expecting a lot more passes, and then it opens up the run attack, and they can just run it right down the middle.
Yeah, we've seen that Whiteland passing game spread the ball around a lot. There's not really a true receiver. Their leading receiver only has 115 yards on the season, so it's definitely been a lot of the ball's been going around to a lot of different receivers. There really hasn't been a true number one. So Mooresville secondary definitely has an easier task tonight, but it really starts at that front 7. But that's really where Whiteland's strong rushing attack can take control of this game.
Yeah, you know, their running back has almost 800 rushing yards, and they've only played 6 games. He's averaging over 130 a game. You can tell he's a big part of the offense with the 6 rushing touchdowns that he's had so far, and he looks to extend on that this season.
The game is about 10 minutes away. Stay tuned for more Pioneer TV pregame show. We'll be right back after this break.
The benefits of choosing a career in the union construction industry are truly limitless.
Some of the things that I've worked on that I'm extremely proud of are some of the pipe racks that we just built for Eli Lilly.
Yeah, there's a lot of different avenues to grow and to advance in your career.
If you're a senior and college isn't for you, in the trades there's so many opportunities. You get to work with your hands, you get trained for free, and the options are unlimited. You can do so many different things with this career.
Welcome back to the Pioneer TV pregame show. Now let's look at both teams' current season comparison. Mooresville's offense has 98 passing completions, 14 passing touchdowns, 9 rushing touchdowns, 1,014 total rushing yards, and 1,309 total passing yards. Mooresville's defense has 6 interceptions, 10.5 sacks, 7 fumble recoveries, and 338 total tackles.
Whiteland's offense has 18 passing completions, 1 passing touchdown, 19 rushing touchdowns, 1,473 total rushing yards, and 279 total passing yards. On defense with 4 interceptions, 7 sacks, 6 fumble recoveries, and 447 total tackles.
Jared, we kind of hit on this earlier, how Mooresville's running defense has been a bit weak, while Whiteland's running offense has been really strong. We definitely expect them to run the ball a lot. How do you think Mooresville can kind of come out strong on defense?
Stack a couple more people in the box extra, since you know that's what they're going to do, is just try to run the ball a lot. And for the Pioneers, though, on offense, they have to get the ball to Levi Doran, such a big key part of some of their games that they've had success in this year.
Yeah, Mooresville, they have 10.5 sacks on the season. Definitely want that number to be a bit higher. That's over a sack a game. But with them having many strong edge rushers, you kind of expect Mooresville pass rush to be really strong. Their pass rush has been really solid so far in this season, but it's about not overcommitting. We've seen a lot of offenses throughout the season kind of expose that, where they draw the edge rushers in on defense, which allows the running gaps to just be wide open. We've seen Landon Clements from his linebacker spot blitz in, but we really haven't seen him got too many sacks in the season. We saw him play a strong role early in the season, but as of recent, he's kind of cooled down on defense and on offense.
Yeah, the defense definitely struggling a little bit more than they were last year, with a couple losses by some seniors. But I think they can bounce back and really stop this Whiteland rushing attack and maybe get a win.
Yeah, we've seen Mooresville secondary really step up recently. Tyler Rakestraw against Decatur had a really strong game a couple weeks ago, where he had a fumble recovery, almost an interception, many pass breakups, didn't allow too many yards in that game. Mooresville's secondary is starting to heat up, while that front seven is starting to slow down a bit, which is kind of the opposite of what we expected heading into the season. We thought Mooresville's secondary were going to be weak, while the front seven was going to be really strong. But right now, it's been the complete opposite.
Yeah, Rakestraw and Caden Bruin over there on the two corners have really stepped up, as they're both juniors, and kind of came into their role as being some of the key leaders on the Mooresville defense so far.
Yeah, then Whiteland's offense has been phenomenal throughout this season. They're trying to get above 500 again on the season, coming off of that big game against Martinsville. Rushing attack in that game was strong. Their passing game was really solid. Defense only allowed 23 points in that game, so trying to repeat the success there. So Whiteland definitely heading into this game with a chip on their shoulder, but Mooresville losing 2 consecutive games, one at home in the homecoming matchup against Decatur and one on the road against Franklin. Definitely trying to get just closer to 500 on the season.
Yeah, the 2 losses coming in at 2-4, definitely not where they expected to be nearing the end of the season with. If they win out, though, they can finish above 500, playing against, it would be Whiteland, Martinsville, and those could be 2 big wins for them so far.
And they also played Perry Meridian. Perry Meridian's definitely been a surprise team this season. So Mooresville, definitely, this is a must-win heading into this game, currently 7th in the Mid-State Conference. They definitely need to get their rushing game going. Landon Clements coming off a bad game. Only 5 rushing attempts for 9 yards. So that's under 2 yards per carry. Didn't even get into the end zone in that game. Mooresville just needs to get back in the winning column. And Jared, we've seen Mooresville either start off really slow and then try and get themselves back into the game late, or start off hot and start, in the game slow. And Jared, you kind of hit on this earlier, where Mooresville hasn't played a complete game all season. What do they need to prepare and do in this game to make sure that doesn't happen?
They need to come out with the intensity to jump on Whiteland early, get up maybe 1 or 2 scores, and then they need to keep doing that whenever they come out of the gates in the second half, and keep pushing the pedal to the metal to come out there and get a win.
Yeah, we've seen that all season. Last week, they played against Franklin, where they started off a bit slow, got themselves back into the game, but it was a bit too late. Decatur a few weeks ago, which was the game right before Franklin, they started off pretty strong. They had the lead, and then a blocked punt that turned into a touchdown. Decatur never looked back, and then we look as far back as week 1. Bloomington North dominated that game in the second half early on. Then Mooresville had a chance to win that game, but they were just too far behind at that point.
Yeah, the difference from this year and last year. Last year, second in the Mid-State Conference, only loss coming to Whiteland. But last year, they were able to play complete games against their opponents, and this year they just haven't been able to piece one of those together yet.
Thank you for watching the Pioneer TV pregame show. Now it's time for tonight's game.
On September 29th, the Mooresville Pioneers will go head-to-head with the Whiteland Warriors. Last year, the Pioneers lost with a score of 30-48. However, we now have the new bleachers to stand on and cheer for the Pioneers. Watch the match at Mooresville High School or watch it live on Pioneer TV on September 29th.